On behalf of Sama Audit Systems and Softwares Private Limited, I extend a warm welcome to all the participants and to our distinguished speakers, Narsimanji and Padma Thiagarajan, for today's webinar, which is the 8th in the series of, Analytics Wednesday web series that we have been holding. So we have been getting distinguished speakers to come and share their experience and talk to us about how they are using analytics in their day-to-day work and how they're using analytics in corporates, companies, organizations, whether it is government, whether it is private sector, NGOs, etc. This particular web series is being supported by Government of Canada Trade Commissioner Service. Just a little 2 minutes I'll spend on about Sama Audit. Sama Audit, I think one of the things in this web series, because we are holding this web series, we can say that Sama Audit has been in the forefront of bringing audit technology to internal and statutory auditors in the country. So analytics was brought to the country. Idea analytics was brought to the country almost 20 years back when no one was talking about analytics. And it has matured and it is being used. There are thousands of copies being used in the country, hundreds of installations in the government sector, in the private sector, by NGOs, by chartered accountant firms. And today's session on Idea Analytics for Professional Practices Firms gives a consulting approach, how Idea Analytics is being used to do consulting for large organizations by professional practices firm. In addition, there are the continuous control monitoring tools, which Sama has got, which is ELISA. You have the Smart Exporter, which is a ETL, a direct connect to SAP. Now, from April onwards, Sama Audit is also delivering working papers, case of working papers to external auditors in the country. So there's a whole range of technology being provided to professionals in the country, whether it is auditors, finance professionals, forensic experts. Of course, it is backed by solutions and consulting and training programs. There are e-learning modules, there are online programs being held and so on. I would like to formally introduce both the speakers. I'm thankful to both of them to have accepted to speak, spend valuable time and speak to the audience here. This program is also being recorded, so it will be available on YouTube and we'll be sending it out to professionals later on so that they can view it at a later date. But today also, we have a moderate sized audience as always. So to formally introduce, the keynote speaker would be Narsimanji. He's a partner in PKF Sridhar and Santhanam LLP. He's a commerce graduate, a fellow chartered accountant, a certified internal auditor, a certified information systems auditor, and a certified ethical hacker. He has used CAD tools since '98, initially ACL and now IDEA. He's proficient in most data analytics tools. He's implemented CCM, continuous monitoring systems, CCM in hospitality sector, IT service sector, manufacturing, as well as various client engagements in statutory audits, internal audits, information technology audits, ERP consulting, including large Maharatna central public sector units, which is Maharatna companies, large groups in India and MNC. So that's a whole wealth of expertise, traveled widely in Africa, Australia, UK, USA, and done training programs for CAT-enabled audits. Also an SAP IT audit, internal audit at the Loda Group, largest real estate developer by sales. So I think it's a long list of his achievements of what he's worked and his competence, experience, etc. So he'll be delivering the keynote, followed by the speaker Padma Thiagarajan, who has 10 years of experience, is an expert in auditing and assurance, IT governance, risk and compliance, third-party assurance, internal controls, and cyber security. She also has domestic and international experience for large assignments. She has developed continuous monitoring solutions for large hotel chains, has experience in internal audits and process reviews of large manufacturing companies, hospitality sector. I think more importantly, has experience in review and testing of IT general controls, including data center operations, application controls, network controls, physical and logical access controls, has handled data analytics using IDEA and ACL, both for control assessments and is a chartered accountant, company secretary, CISA, CISSP, CEH, ethical hacker, again certified ethical hacker, and PG in machine learning and data science. So I think I've gone through this biodata quite fast. I'm trying to introduce both these accomplished speakers who have got such vast experience. So I think let's hear both of them. So Narsimanji, over to you first.
Thank you, Deepji. And it's wonderful for Sama to organize this kind of, every week kind of analytics, Wednesday analytics. And I've been able to see all your sessions have been very nice and interesting to be part of. I was wondering, and exactly you called me to asking me whether will I be interested to participate. So it's nice that you are able to reach out to the industry, and it's more of enabling the public as well. So we'll be more than happy to be part of this, and we are keen to just take it up. And primarily, even though the topic is on data analytics for professional practice firms as a consulting approach, we are trying to explain how we have been actually experiencing it over the last 2 decades plus. And we will share the experience and we'll have interaction at the end of the session. And as indicated in the introduction, my first introduction to ACL way back in 1998 when I was trained by the ACL for those 3 days of introductory training. I still remember those days. It was because there was no internet, nothing. So you need to, it was all pretty, you need to have difficult things to get into internet to see anything. So those days, getting into a training, you have to come all the way from Chennai to Mumbai to do the training and all that. And from then to then, you have this ACL with a toggle on top. So you need to have the toggle attached to the laptop, use the data. It's all, those are the days where we used. When I just look at it and I can only laugh at it. My God, what a journey it was. And let's now get into the session straight away. Padma, can you just change the slide? Yeah. See, one thing which I'm able to see is that over the last 2 decades, there's a phenomenal growth and understanding of the need for data sciences, and what is actually the interest in that has grown up dramatically over the past 1 decade, I can say, or even before that, it's slightly going in. And now it is the in thing that everybody wants to talk about data science, data analytics. And the talent availability is scarce. In the sense, when I say scarce, you have a lot of people who want to get trained or who have been trained in terms of theory and all that, attending some kind of course, certificate courses. But when it comes to hands-on work, we find there is a gap. We need to bridge the gap. How to make the ends meet is a big challenge. It's not easy to get the skilled resources in this regard. That's a big, but of course, there is a huge demand from the corporates for implementing data analytics in the day-to-day activity. It can be from operation side, it can be from audit perspective, everywhere. And the data analytics capability being the most important, what are the next, the full differentiating factor for the professional firms to ace the consulting approach for the data analytics is what I want to explain now. With this, I'll stop and then hand it over to Padma to take it. I thought I should set the canvas on so that she can do that beautiful painting out of that. The domain expertise is what actually differentiate the professional firms from anybody else, because the domain expertise comes with detailed business differentiating the consultant from the data scientist, pure data scientist. So any corporate can hire a pure data scientist, but he need to have the business document. The people with industry knowledge with the business document may not have the data scientist knowledge. So it is a kind of what we call earlier as fintech person should become fin data. Primarily data fin person kind. You need to be a finance guy, but also an understanding of the process guy, but also a data guy who should be able to handle the data, who should know how to do it. And when it comes to domain, it actually requires, for example, if it's going to be banking, it's not just banking knowledge, also the CBS knowledge. Today, every industry is technologically enabled. So when it comes to banking, I need to have a CBS knowledge. When it comes to hospitality, I should have the in-depth knowledge of how the property management systems work, how it got evolved over a period of time, what are the control weaknesses that can be there. When I'm doing any manufacturing, if they are in SAP or any ELP that may be. I need to have an understanding of multiple ELPs for me to get it. So it's not just industry domain. When I say domain related technology also should be known. So that is where you have to have a kind of a knowledge that you need to augment over the period of time, that will help in introducing, or I can say handling the consulting engagement easily. And the second important thing, that as professionals, we can find solutions for every problem, but you need to have problem solving skills. For that, you need to have the ability to define the problem and also find a solution for the problem. And most of the time, in-house people or the corporate people might be busy with their own routine. So they may not be able to sit back and look at it. What is the problem that I'm having? So you can play that role of being a clear partner to identify the problem and give a clear solution for the same. This problem solving skills is very important. Don't see anything as a challenge, but look at beyond that, and how to address the challenges is important. Coming to unbiased approach is very important. Again, next good quality of, because most of the time, in-house people, what I find is when they do that, sometimes they get carried away with the internal perception about what they do, what organization do, what all the data, who looks at it, how way, in how they look at it, in whichever way they that they look at. But an independent evaluation of data under control. So whenever you look at the data, don't look at the data isolatedly. How it is controlled and how the data gets populated, how the data gets modeled into the data, what it is today, gives an edge for the sales team. So bridge the gap between the IA department and the business functions. Sometimes IA department might have a knowledge of controls, but they may not have the data knowledge. Sometimes they have both. I know some IA departments are very well equipped. In those cases, we have to, we need to support them with certain other unbiased approaches. For example, they might come with an internal bias of audit bias. So where you need to have business knowledge there, where you need to do the kind of just balancing there, you need to have a balancing. So this independent evaluation is a key factor when you do a consulting approach. So this is another key, kind of factor which every professional firm should have it in their mind. And the best practice benchmarking. It is not just one industry expertise can make you to implement. So you need to have different collective expertise of different industries. For what I may do in a manufacturing setup, maybe that one activity of that may be helpful when I do an hospitality segment. Something which I do in banking might be helpful in hospitality, or maybe when I do for hospitals. So like that, we should be able to have a collective expertise of various industries and various processes, which can give an edge over the in-house teams. So the best practice benchmarking between the industry, between the verticals that you might have, that will help you. So it is not just one man or two man job. Let me be very clear, because you need to have at least a team of a couple of people to make them to understand domain expert with the technical knowledge of data. So that will be the helpful, I can say, the differentiating factor for the professional firm to have the consulting approach. And now I'll just give it to Padma. She will take you through the whole framework, how we go about doing it and all that. And then I'll take questions at the end of the session. Over to you, Padma.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Feels great to connect with all of you through this virtual platform. And Analytics Wednesday is a great initiative. Thanks, Mr. Deepji, for the introduction as well. Taking forward the keynote given by Mr. Narsi on the 4 differentiating factors, now let us see how to pitch for a data analytics consulting work. How can you expand the consulting in data analytics? Where to look for? You may be a firm which already has data analytics software, maybe IDEA or ACL, and looking for what to do, or maybe doing some few assignments. Or you could be a firm thinking of purchasing IDEA or any other software for that matter. So where do you look for to get consulting work? The first one I would say is catch the low hanging fruits. The quick wins would be your internal audit clients. These are the clients where you have where analytics is very helpful. You will already know the business processes, you will know the client, their systems, the people, and it is easy for you to identify areas where data analytics will fit into the organization. So pitch for automation opportunities based on your understanding which you have obtained in internal audit. To give you an example here, I will take you through small examples from our journey now and then. So to give you an example here, we were doing internal audit of a big hospitality group of hotels, and based on our understanding of internal audit, we were able to tell them that, okay, your internal audit team is very small. Let us suggest some 30 to 40 checks which you can look at on a daily basis. So we used to do the exceptions. Being hotels, they need to quickly identify the exceptions and turn it around before the guest checks out so that they can rectify any errors. So we used to give them within a matter of a day the exceptions for the previous day, and they were looking at the exceptions in a focused manner. So we used our expertise from internal audit to convert that into a data analytics consulting engagement. The next opportunity I would say is in incident driven. Incident driven is clients where there has been some incident like a fraud or a forensic which has happened, and they would want you to look at data points to either detect the fraud or to put in control so that such kind of frauds do not happen in future. So that is also an excellent opportunity for you to tap to pitch into and get some engagement, consulting engagements in data analytics. The third important aspect is business decision making, where it is used in business decision making. Often traditional firms think that data analytics is only for, say, internal audits or statutory audits, or some consulting engagements for the audit related work. Whereas I would say there is a lot of opportunity available in business decision making, data-driven insights for decision making. I will give you an example here. How we had implemented data analytics for purchase price control. There was this company which was into manufacturing copper products, and copper prices were a major influencer for their product pricing. So we set up a data analytics platform wherein it would pull the RSS feeds of copper prices from online directly into IDEA on a daily basis, and we did scripts to compare the prices with the benchmark prices. And whenever there was a significant increase, or say an increase above a threshold of 10%, they had to reset the product prices. So it sent a trigger to their marketing team and the CFO saying that, look at your product prices. So in business decision making also, you can use data analytics in a big way. The fourth one is digital transformation. There are traditional businesses where you have a lot of this opportunity, which has multiple disparate systems for their operations, or they could be legacy systems, where you can take up digital transformation projects to convert that, to convert such data, or to make them capture data by implementing technology to identify and plot the data points so that you can do data-driven analytics for them and enable them in digital transformation. There can be a two-pronged approach for pitching data analytics consulting work. Either the first one would be to identify the current pain points for the clients and offer solutions. This is either you have an existing client where you already know this is a place they have a problem. For example, I know this client, they have a shortage of personnel in their stores. So let me introduce analytical solutions for them in stores. So you know their pain points. Or if it's a new client, you will tell them that let me do a diagnostic study and identify the pain points for you and then offer the solutions. Can be one of the approaches. And the other approach could be pitch all your service offerings, all that you can do, all the credentials, what are the tools that you can handle, what are the platforms, coding softwares that you know, what are the skill set that you have within your firm or organization, and let the client choose what they want. So some clients know what they want, but they're looking for matching the gap between the in-house and outsourced work. So that is where it is helpful. And ideally make your pitch technology agnostic, because technology will be the last mile in your framework. You can first identify the problem, choose the right fit for the data analytics, and then technology can come in. The next very important thing is understand which phase of the analytic maturity curve your client is in. I will spend 2 minutes to explain what is an analytical maturity curve of an organization. So the solution, the framework which you offer for analytic consulting should depend on which stage your client is in. Your team composition and skill set requirement will also depend on the maturity of the client. So there could be clients which are companies which are basic meaning there is no formal analytics. They don't have a formal setup to do data analytics. They have limited skills, and mostly it is personal driven. If the person is there, some analytics will happen. If he is on leave or if he has left, then it's not done. So that kind of firm where it is basic. There could be companies which have moved from basic to applied, where there is some kind of data analytics, there is a core group, but then it is not institutionalized. It is not across the organization. There are very few people, interested group of people who do this currently. Tools are available, but it is not consistently applied. They do it now and then. That is the applied stage. From applied stage, they move to managed. Managed is where advanced tools are used, data analytics tools are used, the methodology is largely institutionalized. There are ongoing efforts, continuously reperform the analytical procedures, and they move from ad hoc to repetitive. Then is a final stage in the maturity curve, which is automated. Automated is when the practices are evolved continuously, and there is continuous monitoring of tools and emerging technologies being used. So the organizations move from hindsight to insight to foresight as they move along the maturity curve, and their analysis also moves from descriptive to predictive to prescriptive. So what you can offer for the client will depend on your understanding. For example, we had a client which already had ACL. They were already doing some scripts in the data analytics software, but they did not know how to go beyond that. They were getting responses, but they didn't know how to analyze. So we helped them to optimize their scripts based on our understanding of the company. And we also help them to, for example, they had some 100-odd stores, and they used to send out the exceptions based on the scripts which they did, and they received responses through mail. So 100-odd stores used to get responses through mail. So we set up a system where of collecting those responses from mail, we developed scripts in Outlook, which would consolidate the replies, which will download the replies automatically, consolidate the replies, and then run data analytics on top of it to consolidate the exceptions and provide insights. Which stores were consistently having more exceptions, which stores have improved, this kind of analytics. So there, if I go and pitch some basic stuff like Excel or I will start with some idea, it may not work. The team already had a lot of knowledge. So where is the company, your client in the analytic maturity curve will make you decide what kind of solution framework you need to offer them. What are the opportunities for consulting? As I said before, it is not just related to audit. You can do consulting in cost management or cost optimization, revenue assurance, loss prevention, enabler for decision making, risk and compliance, emerging technology consulting. So this is just an illustrative list, but there are many more opportunities in consulting. I will give you some examples. Risk and compliance, for example, if you take the consulting, you can have data analytics consulting, which gives automatic trigger when there is a non-compliance, when there is a delay in, when they're not deducted TDS, for example. Or it could be that when there is a risk, which is high risk, which is not adhered to, then there would be a red flag. Emerging technology consulting is also coming in a big way. Now, IDEA itself as integration to Python, with which you can explore the vast open source capabilities of Python. You have RPA integrations, you have visualizations, more than that, you have neural networks, all ML AI related models, NLPs, all of that which you can integrate, but all of that depends on the data as well. So emerging technology consulting with data analytics is also a very good opportunity. The next I will go into the framework. So how do you actually design your framework for taking up any data analytics work? I will divide this into 3 phases: the pre-implementation phase, implementation phase, and the post-implementation phase. In the pre-implementation phase, the most important aspect I would say is diagnostic study. The diagnostic study, we generally recommend that when you pitch for or when you take up any data analytics project, do a diagnostic study. Recommend to the client that you will take up a diagnostic study. This will help you to understand the business, understand the controls in the system to a great extent. So here you will have to closely work with the internal audit department, with the process owners as well. I'll give you an example here. Like you have to also decide ERP, whether to put a control. You'll also understand the system. So you will have to decide whether to put in a control in the ERP or whether to establish a KPI to monitor. So for example, let's say you have identified one of the exceptions as GRN, where the goods are received more than the quantity in the PO, and you want to propose this as an exception. There could be an easier solution of putting a control in the ERP itself of blocking any receipt more than the PO. When you do that, there is no need to monitor the exception. It is mitigated by bringing in a risk is mitigated by bringing in a system control. So here is where your knowledge about the business and the system will play a good role in telling them. So don't propose something for the sake of it, but really look at what value addition we can do, and then give the whatever would be the fit approach. Then coming to the framework, the framework will be divided into project framework, where you will give an overall higher level target timeline, what would be your deliverables, how will you go about doing it, which software you will use, and all of that in the project framework. Then you go to the pilot. Pilot, I would say, keep your analytics assignment agile. So many of the assignments fail today because when we take up, we give a huge proposal of say, I will do 30, 40, 50 exceptions for you, I will monitor all that, when they are not even able to have any, they have not even started their analytic journey. So when you take up say few exceptions, few KPIs, say 4 or 5 KPIs, and show them, and they see value out of it, automatically they will give you more work. So pilot approach often helps in this kind of analytic consulting. The next is going to your analytics and KPIs and blueprint is the actual implementation phase, where you will say, taking it forward, that what are all the reports you can do, what are all the KPIs you can monitor, what are the data points that you can see, visualization, what is a blueprint, and all of that will be in the third phase. And this is where you will also develop the scripts or develop the any solution framework that you have proposed in your framework phase. And lastly, you go to build, operate, and transfer. In build, operate, and transfer, you actually make it, you operationalize the framework by passing it on to the client, and then they will try to run it. So when they run it, there will be a lot of problems, like, they will not know which report to take, or they would have taken a report with incorrect parameters. So all of that happens in the build, operate, and transfer. And this is a most important phase to see the benefit realization, to help the client to trust in the framework that you have developed. So there, a lot of time and efforts have to be spent, and accordingly, you have to plan your timeline. And it also gives you a post-implementation. Post-implementation is very important, and it gives you, it makes you look at whether the desired results of the KPI has been achieved or it needs a revision. So it's a continuous improvement process. And there, in that phase, you may have to give training. You will have to give training to the employees, to the internal audit department, to the finance, whoever is going to use your framework. And it also depends on the complexity of the technology. For example, if you're doing scripts and idea which just runs on the click of a button, there might not be much of a training which is required. Whereas if it's going to be a technology like built on SQL, which you have to import the data, there's a smart exporter which integrates with SAP, some complications, then you may have to give more training. So the post-implementation training time which you have to budget will depend on the technology, the complexity, and also the skill set of the people in the organization. And here you will also have to look at how to handle scope creep. Scope creep is one of the biggest problems that we as professionals face. We are given to understand something, and then when we start doing it, there is a lot of scope creep which happens. They tell us, no, we want to see some more, we want to see this also, add this also to the script. So we tend to spend more time. So this is something which has to be handled by us as professionals, depending on the client relationship, our experience. We have to put it forward nicely to them, and also match our efforts and cost, so that they are able to understand the efforts that we put in. I will go into some of the use cases. The first one of data analytics, which we have done for some of our clients. The first one would be test of population. How data analytics has made test of population possible, and sampling is just a thing of a past. So this was again a retail chain with 100 stores or 100 odd stores. They were using POS, which was integrated with ERP. Internal audit was generally focusing on the top 5 and a random 5 stores, and they used to look at insights from these stores alone. Now we took up, for example, one area of sales return, and we told them, what all can you look at in sales return? So we told them, you can look at which stores has sales returns higher than company average. So we pulled the sales return data of all the 100 stores, put it into IDEA or ACL, and then did the analysis and gave them that these are the different kind of insights that you can see out of it. Data points which you can see, which store has sales return higher than the company average. So this made them to look at not the top 5 stores, but stores which were not having an average higher than the company average. So this gave them a concentrated, focused approach. Then we told them, look at customers with high returns and frequent returns. So the company started having a database of such customers, and next time when the customer comes to the retail shop, they will be handling them with more caution. Then we gave them insight on same customer refunded in different cities on the same day. How could it be that he could have purchased in one city and then gone and got a refund in another city? So some of these were also plugged by putting in system controls. but the insights made them, it was an eye-opener for them, and it entirely changed the way they started looking at data. We also gave them data points on cashier and customer doing the refund are the same. How can it be that a cashier and customer? So probably it's a case of fraud. Then it could be multiple refunds against a single invoice. That was one of the items looked at. Items which are returned frequently. This helped them to look at, gave them a trend of which are the items returned frequently. So if it's a particular brand, is it from a particular vendor, or is it a problem with the transporter? So they had to take up with the vendor and then say, look, this particular product is having 30-40% returns, which is not acceptable. So please look at it. So what is the reason for the return? Or if it's damaged by the transport, then take it up with the transporter. So such kind of insights gave a completely different outlook to what they were looking at by just seeing some top 5 stores and doing sampling, which was not very helpful. So data analytics changed the whole gamut of things. How to use idea analytics and operation management? I want to give some examples. It's not just an audit tool. It replaces spreadsheet tracking, and it can be used in day-to-day controlling and automation. Automatic alerts to CFO and functional managers it was also possible with IDEA. To give you some examples, there was this client where they had to monitor drawing power limits. The accountant used to prepare, after he comes to office, he used to prepare the drawing power calculation and then send it to the CFO. And till afternoon, the CFO did not have any idea of what was the headroom which was available. Then we made an automatic report which downloads the data the early morning the next day from the trial balance of the previous day and gives a simple calculation, a mail to the CFO of what is the drawing power headroom for that day, so that he can, at 1 o'clock when he logs into the system, he can see what is the headroom available and accordingly decide on his funds and working capital borrowings which he wants to do. The next is daily MIS for revenue and cash flow. There are various kinds of MIS which can be easily built from the books of accounts. For example, if you want to do MIS for revenue and the software, you can take full data. For example, the company uses Salesforce. You can combine the data from Salesforce, pull the data from books of accounts, combine it and do a nice MIS which is visible. The advantage with this is that it happens whether there are people or not. It happens on a daily basis, and nobody has to wait for the reports to be given to them. So CFO, CEOs appreciate this kind of decision makers appreciate this kind of reports to a great extent. Then another example I can give you is daily actual payout based on checks issued. So here the CFO was able to again manage his treasury operations based on the checks issued. He did not have visibility of how much of checks they have issued, which would get realized in the future, and how much of funds he has to plan based on the checks issued. So this was one great insight for him. The next one is moving average price changes. So in SAP, what happens is the moving average prices gets overwritten on a daily basis. Now the CFO and CEO used to get a shock at the end of the month looking at the price variances and the consumption. So they wanted to have it as and when the transaction happened, as and when the PO releases, so that they will not have to get some surprises at the month end. So we developed a table where the moving average prices from SAP gets pulled into IDEA on a daily basis, and a repository of the MAP gets tracked. And any PO which is more than 5% of the previous PO, or if there is an MAP change more than 10%, it will automatically trigger. And the CFO CEO has insight into price variances then and there, and did not have to wait for the month end. So these are some of the areas where you can have a consulting approach to operational decision making. Another interesting example I want to give you is on how we converted a simple physical verification assignment into a consulting assignment. So there was physical verification. We were doing physical verification assignment of inventory for a huge manufacturing plant. We used to report variances and adjustments. Adjustments were made based on the reports.
Sorry, Vatma, to intervene. That this thing is not coming. The picture is not coming.
Yeah. So a physical verification report of variances were issued. We did a compilation of the 5 years. So what we converted is something like this, which was a report of the variances, into something like this, which was a visual impact of compilation of 5 years. We thought, okay, we have been doing PV for a long time. So let us consolidate the result of 5 years. And the analytics which we did gave interesting insights into, and it helped the management to rectify some of the root cause of the issues. Looking at the differences per se would not have helped them to get some insights. For example, one of the insights were there were 5 items in which there was always a shortfall in all the 5 years. And the management then went into the root cause and figured out that the BOM was not updated for a very long time. The bill of material was not updated for a very long time, which was not posting the consumption. So there was incorrect consumption posted, and because of which there was always a physical verification difference. Then there was in another plan around 500 odd items where there were no differences. On year, it used to exactly match, but on the last fourth year, there cropped up a difference. And then it indicated that there was a change of staff in that particular shop floor who's not posting consumption. So here they had to give more training to that staff and plug the issue. So when we compiled this data points over a period of time and gave them a consolidated holistic approach, the management was taken aback, and they were like, it gave them a whole different perspective to looking at their variances over a period of time. Skill set. So now coming to what kind of skill set is required to perform a data analytic consulting engagement for practice firms is you need to have analytics and consulting skill set and domain expertise. Now the analytics skill set comprises of data analytics, programming skill set, modeling, and statistical. So understanding of basic statistics is, I would say, a must when you do data analytics projects. The programming skills also is a great extent required today, because you need to look at, it depends on the tools which are used. Even though IDEA or ACL may have their inbuilt visual script and recording capabilities to a certain extent to make it optimal and make it automatic, repetitive, you may have to know programming skills. So programming skills is much required these days. When it comes to consulting as auditors, we are very good at doing problem framing, solving, project management, communication, and presentation skills. Communication, presentation skills are very important. We have IDEA itself has presentation capabilities, visualization capabilities, discovery capabilities these days that can be used. Domain expertise, Mr. Narsi elaborated during this in his keynote on how important domain expertise is. So all this, the bouquet of skills put together is what will help you perform and deliver a good data analytic consulting engagement. Now let me go into the implementation models. There are different models in which you can implement a consulting, data analytics consulting engagement. I've just divided into four different categories. One is knowledge process outsourcing. So knowledge process outsourcing, I'll give you an example again here. We had another hotel which was we set up a KPO kind of a team where there was 15-20 people sitting from our office who used to churn out, the hotel used to send us data every day morning. Automatically, we set up a system where the software will download the data from their ERP and mail it to our email address. And we used to download it early in the morning. And the 15 people used to work on the data as a KPO team, churn out the exceptions and send it back to the client. We even used to work depending on the time zones. So for Australia, we used to do it early in the morning. And for countries in Africa and US, we used to work late in the night and finish it. So this kind, we were able to churn out the exceptions, and the hotel did not have to spend time in arriving at these exceptions. They spent a lot of time in looking at the exceptions. And also they didn't have to put a lot of manpower to run it. For 50-60 odd hotels, we were able to do it at one shot, which gave them uniform results and all the exceptions which were looked at by all the hotels. And it gave a standardized approach to the entire consulting framework. The next is one-time implementation. As I said, your client may already have IDEA, or there was one of our clients' internal audit departments which already had IDEA, and internal audit team did not know how to use it. So we took up a one-time engagement where we implemented IDEA for them by developing scripts, and then we handed over to them so that they can take it forward from there. Then it could be a tool-based implementation. You could develop a tool for them, or you could use one of the existing tools. Develop a SQL-based tool or any tool for that matter and deliver it to them as an EXE, or when you're doing implementation IDEA itself from end to end using Smart Exporter to pull data and all of that till the end. That can be a tool-based implementation which you can look at. And finally, I would say outsourcing model. This is also very popular these days, where you outsource your skill set to the internal audit team or to the finance team or to the operations team, and they use people from your firm to deliver what they want. Now, each of these models have their own pros and cons. So it depends on how you handle it, and the model which you choose will depend on the client needs, the client's expertise and their team capabilities and all of that. Now, what are the pros and cons of outsourcing? So I would say, I would spend some time on the cons more than the pros. So generally, too much time is spent on understanding the tool. So often clients complain that we tend to explore the tool only after we get the engagement. It is expected that analytics firm has to have good, the consulting firms have to have good knowledge over IDEA or ACL or Python or whatever tool you're using, so that minimum time is spent on exploring, and you're able to tell them, okay, to look at this, you need to use this feature. So they should not give you should not give an impression that you are exploring the tool only after you get the engagement. That is very important. The next most important aspect which we are facing these days is sensitivity of data. There are a lot of clients which are worried about the sensitivity of the data, the GDPR regulations, PCI DSS compliances and all of that, because of which they don't want to share data outside the company. Here you have to innovate, you have to think differently and convince a client that either we will be using their VPN, we will be using their platform, not take any data out and use their own capabilities to build the flat platform, or you can convince them by convincing them on what security parameters that you have put in. Is it a BYOD policy, or are you giving laptops to your employees? Is there a block on the USB usage? Have you put a good antivirus? You can take them through what security features you have in your company. Info security is also an important aspect which you need to be aware of, and then use that to convince a client. Sometimes you have to think differently and not give up if they say there is data sensitivity we cannot share. You have to go one extra mile and do that play that convincing role as well, to get some engagements. Lack of business understanding, we have spoken enough of this. Domain expertise is very important. Often we spend a lot of time build so many dashboards, and like you see in the cartoon, what is this dashboard which is KPI is becoming 0, and then they say that it measures how well we understand them all. Sometimes we give too many without knowing what it means, and then it becomes useless. So pros are obviously specialization, fast implementation, cost advantage. An auditor and analyst role, like fintech role, is very important. So that helps. Those are the pros of outsourcing. Now, what are the adoption hurdles? This is, I would say, the most important to turn around your analytics proposal into actual engagement. How do you get the management buy-in? How do I demonstrate the value of analytics to the organization and the top management? Next is data quality war. It is always gigo when it comes to any data analytics project. That we have to remember. How do I overcome this and derive success from the very beginning? Just because it is some garbage data which is dirty, it doesn't mean that you have to give up. You have to pitch in a consulting engagement where you will actually help them to capture the right data. So you have to from the very beginning. Then knowledge gap. Who owns the analytics? Is it tail wagging the head? Is it like internal audit department going behind the process, or how is it? Then technology. Technology, is it the correct fit? What is the cost versus benefit? Outputs with insights. How to make analytics meaningful by driving actions and results. How to prove the benefit realization. Now let's look at how to overcome each of this in little detail. How do you tackle these adoption hurdles? The first one is on buy-in. The common hurdle is quickly demonstrating the ROI and justifying the right technology. What is the risk? A lot of time and energy and planning is invested into the analytics project, and then it gets halted because leadership approval is not there, the budget approval is not there. Now here, a good tip to tackle is that exhibit your capabilities and credentials and do a POC. As I said, follow an agile approach. Take few KPIs and show it, and do a POC that it can really add value. Try to tell them what are the benefits which they can see from the data analytics project. Make them visualize it so that it will help you to demonstrate and get the buy-in much easier. Data quality war. The hurdle is that there is dirty data, there is lack of knowledge about the data. Often we spend a lot of time in deciding the KPIs and all of that, and then when we go, we find that the data itself is not there. And how do I do this particular analysis? And if the data is dirty, it could result in a lot of false positives, which could result in trust breach. The first KPI which you are delivering, if it has a lot of false positives, the client is not going to be happy. They are not going to have trust in the assignment and the framework which you have proposed. So some of the tips to tackle this is test the data before planning which process to take up. Be smart enough to take a process which has good data and do a spot test of the data before you take up. Break down the KPIs and then have a detailed discussion with the process owners. The process owners' buy-in is very important. They should not say that there is no use in looking at this, or there could be a particular reason why you're looking at it. So always liaise between the process owners so that you are able to give a good KPI which could get the management buy-in. The knowledge gap, company personnel lack the technical aptitude to apply analytics. Then you end up with a shelfware which is not used after delivery. There's very much ambitious project which you deliver, and after you deliver and get out, there is nobody in the organization using it. Neither you are going to be happy, nor the client is going to be happy. So how do you tackle this is to operationalize. You identify teams which can handle the teams which are capable of taking forward the project. You can train them. You provide some post implementation support and continuous training, and ensure follow up with the client and ensure that the analytics of solution is working as per the requirement. And if there is any course correction, any post implementation corrections to be done, you can always do that. And you can also try to implement CMS solutions, continuous monitoring, automated solutions, which would help in continuously monitoring the exceptions, and very little efforts from the client side is required to actually churn out or arrive at the outputs. Outputs with insights, results not understood by the stakeholders, or analytics results lack context and business impact. You're looking at something, but the management intends to look at something else. So prioritization is very important. There again, it may result to trust breach and no confidence on the framework, and it may lead to even abandoning the project. Here you have to visualize and present the dashboards. You have to quantify the impact wherever possible in value terms and present to the management. So management is convinced that the output really has insights, and the stakeholders have actually understood it. So more than giving monotonous reports, you can actually present dashboards. Now, for example, in one of our internal audit clients, we once tried that instead of presenting the internal audit report in Word, why not we present it in dashboards? Why not we give them interesting charts and make them understand, like a storyboard, to make them understand what was the entire cycle of the observation. And as soon as we showed it, the CFO literally jumped from his chair, and he was like, "Oh my God, is this happening?" When it was in a Word report, he would have hardly been interested in reading it. So make it visual so that the insights are being understood by the stakeholders. Technology integration with the existing systems, ease of use and cost. So there you have to do a cost benefit analysis based on the budget of the client. You may have to propose what is required. And a lack of expertise to use the implemented technology, no technology support or scalability could be the risk. You may implement a particular software, but when they scale, that is when they probably expand to various regions, or they had more divisions and people. The analytics framework which you have suggested is not able to scale up. There is no expertise within the within the team to actually take it forward, or to make changes to the technology. When you implement it and tomorrow there is some change in the ERP, they should be able to customize the software, the solution which you have given, and they may not have technology support. So all these factors have to be considered when you actually suggest a technology during the framework stage. A lot of understanding and planning has to go in. So tips to tackle this will be to select the technology that suits the overall analytical approach and not just a function. Don't look at just one particular function which you may be consulting for today. Look at the entire approach, how it could be a scalable model. Tomorrow, if they want to use this for different purposes, what software would be scalable for them? And if it is within their budget, you should definitely give them the options and then allow the client to choose from it. Simplify the front end. If there is a complicated back end, or for example, if you're using idea of the complicated script also, you can simplify it by giving a click of a button for them. Simple front ends for importing the data, analyzing the data will help them to want them to use it. A lot of complication will make them averse and not make the product a shelfware. Training and support, here again, you can give training and support to enable them to take it forward, and the technology plays an important role. So all these challenges can easily be tackled with a little bit of innovation, planning, and understanding of the client needs. Client relationship is important. We have to pursue with the right convincing factors for them, and make the project a success. Here I have given an illustrative list of capabilities which are required to deliver an end-to-end analytic project. I wouldn't say all of this is required, but it is good to have them. Like if you take analytics, idea, Galvanize, which is ACL, Excel for that matter has a lot of capabilities, R, SAS, all of this. SAS is of course a paid one, and not all of us may have it. But idea, ACL, or Excel is a very good starting point. Sometimes you may have to have understanding of more than one application so that you're able to fit into many different customer needs. When it comes to coding, you need to have coding knowledge of R, Python, Java, C++. Sometimes Python is good. Python has a lot of capabilities. Visualization is Power BI, Tableau. In fact, IDEA ACL itself has its own visualization tabs. Then there is Excel as well. Excel also has a lot of visualization capabilities which you can tap. Finally, database. This is for basically for big data projects which you are looking at. You can use Hadoop, SQL, SQL Server, MySQL, Spark, MongoDB. All of this could be useful databases for doing big data analytics. So this is just a bouquet of different things which you need to, different technology and platforms that you need to be aware of to deliver a good, form a good data analytic team in your firm and to deliver good engagements. So with this, I would like to conclude and thank Sama for this opportunity. From here, we will take up any questions that you may have regarding the consulting.
Thank you very much, Padma. Thank you very much, Narasimhanji. Padma, I think it was an excellent presentation, Padma. Narasimhanji, because when we go across to firms in the country, professional firms, there are hundreds of firms who have bought IDEA licenses. They also use other analytical tools, like you said. Some of them use Python, some of them use Power BI, some of them use Tableau along with IDEA, some of them use SQL, and so on. The variety of tools, technology. But every time you sit down with the partners or the team which is using analytics, the common refrain is, how do you get more consulting assignments? How do you grow the firm? How do you get more revenue out of consulting assignments? And this presentation which you have presented, 40 minutes of, it's like music to my ears, because it captures the essence of how a professional practices firm has to move to ensure that they remain on top and grow their consulting practice and get more revenue and engage with their clients. So an excellent presentation. As Padma said, any questions, please. I'll just quickly go to the questions tab and see. Okay, of course, people have said excellent, clear presentation. Fantastic presentation. My friend Rajesh Chakote, he himself is a champion IDEA user and from a professional practices firm from Bombay, partner in a professional practices firm. He's been using IDEA for so many years, and he said, very good presentation, excellent presentation, fantastic. But any questions, please? Would welcome
questions. Open to take questions, yeah. And thank you for a good response. I think I'm able to see nice, good responses. Any questions we'd like to take? We can.
Yes. This is a great opportunity because you have two distinguished speakers, Narasimhanji and Padma. Both, I think people have not put any questions today. But okay, now how do you plan HR to do this consulting? So I think we have this one from Rajesh Chakote, who says, he himself, let me tell you that he himself is a champion IDEA user and he uses this for consulting in his practice. So he says, how do plan HR to do this consulting?
Sorry, I'm not able to get.
Rajesh, can you rephrase that? How do you plan out your HR to do this consulting? How do you have your practice, HR practice in the firm to, do this consulting? How do you organize your team to do this consulting?
Oh, human resource planning. Okay.
Yes.
That is of course a big challenge, getting the retain very good skills and also able to just be able to just retain them is a challenge. Of course, we need to continuously do, especially being a CFO. The planning is a big challenge, especially the kind of work this gets extended beyond the expectation of us. And you need to continuously reskill them, just motivate them both financially and otherwise, and make them to stay on with you. And as a team lead, as a partner, the kind of professional, you need to also guide them continuously, just motivate them, just ensure that we get they get just mentored by you so that they continue on. That's the only way. I know it's a difficult question to answer.
I think it is a difficult question, Narasimhanji, and it's very difficult to answer. And at the beginning of the presentation itself, you said, getting the right people in data analytics.
Exactly, that's a big challenge.
It's a challenge. It's a big challenge for all professional practices firms in the country. Not only professional practices firm, even in industry.
So to be frank, in our firm, we hire only chartered accountants with some amount of kind of tech knowledge. I'm been grooming, training people, but I do have one or two pure scripters, pure, IT guys who can help us to do some scripting work and all that. But to be frank, I can't put them into front-ending the client and kind of thing. They can support my actual execution team. So I would expect a functional guy with scripting knowledge will be a better choice than. So primarily, we need to democratize the scripting knowledge across the firm. Keep training. Actually, we have been doing that training on and off regularly, me and Batman and our firm, so that even at a much lower level, we can do that. Yeah.
The next question is, in your experience in India, which service offering model appears to be the trend? Mid-sized companies who want to enjoy benefits but cannot afford to invest in technology? Are they open to consider exception reporting as a service or operating MIS as a service?
Okay, off late, the service model is not working well because people have become aware about the data security, info security. So most probably the info security guys from the IT team puts a spoke on that. So even the work that we were doing for the hotels that actually got stopped primarily because of that, because they were telling about GDPR and whatever security features you put into your environment, they are not keen to share. So the service model doesn't really work in India. I have not seen it. Used to be 10 years back, because when we initially started the service model, it was in 2007 and it was running for till 2014 or so. But now it's not the case. I don't get to see that. So even the mid-sized firms would like to have a tool on their premises, and then they run it on their own. That's what I'm able to see.
Okay.
And there was one more question, I think, about that, Mr. SK.
That's one question. How could you please elaborate on the workflow management built using ACL and Outlook? You had mentioned that during the presentation.
Okay. See, it is like this. It is not a workflow, to be frank, actually. It is more of managing the exception. What happened is that they were actually having ACL to run across the stores, across the store data. The data was sent as an exception to the stores for stores manager to respond. The responses were coming back, and the responses were manually collated, added into an Excel file. And then, so imagine 100 mails coming for somebody and then open, and that itself was taking 3 to 4 hours for a person to do that. So what we did was, that's what we need to be, we need to see the kind of just problem solving skills here. So we did a simple shell script to download those messages with the predetermined taglines of the subject taglines or whatever is the text that is there in the subject. Based on that, take it to a separate folder. Then have the ACL to append all the exceptions store-wise coming in a single file, and then give it to the person to look at it. So the internal audit person need not do this manual work. So we created a kind of a shell script for just downloading those mails from Outlook, and then have it in ACL for appending the data into a single file, and then give the file to him. That's what has been done.
Right. There's one more question on, can we get your email so that we can share some detailed query and we can maybe write to you? So maybe Padma, if it is okay, you can just type in.
I think she has already shared. She has already shared that in the question and answer session. She has actually shared that, but our mail IDs have been shared.
Yes, and there's one more question on what are the level of organizations that look for such services, maybe with reference to the kind of industry or turnover or any other parameter?
See, I honestly speaking, even a small 50 crore company has approached us to do similar thing. I also have a 1,000 crore, 2,000 crore company approaching us. It is a question of awareness of what they want. And are they are they taking the decisions based on data and with the insights from the data, or are they more of old school of kind of decision making? Wait for month end to get MIS and then do that, or are they doing it on a continuous basis? So these are the factors that drive them. And also, we actually need to do some concept selling in some places. You need to do that. So they are not aware about how it will be beneficial to them. So you need to do some amount of just concept sell. So if you do a project for, say, 10 clients, if you approach and pitch for, you may succeed in 1 or 2. That's the kind of success rate in India today, because the awareness is there that eagerness to move in is little. There is a kind of a reluctancy for them.
Any inputs on building analytics model around unstructured data? Any use cases you can share?
Sir, okay. Unstructured data off late, we can use RPAs. There are tools like UiPath and Automation Anywhere and all. We have also attempted to do something like image from the images. You can value of the text files and kind of stuff where you can actually convert that into OCR based database into a kind of structured data and then do that. Honestly, I think 1 or 2 attempts have been done by us, not in a big way. Maybe Batma, I think
to add on to that, I would say there are some Python libraries also available to handle unstructured data.
Exactly.
So with IDEA being integrated with Python today, you can tap this opportunity and convert the unstructured data into structured data. It could be audio, it could be text, it could be from social media, it could be anything. Now Python has innumerable capabilities.
So Python integration with IDEA is something which we can really look for that.
I think just add to what, sorry, Padma.
Sorry, yeah.
Please, Padma.
There was another question of can ACL be compatible to Python?
Okay.
I think,
Before you answer that, just telling you that, across the world, we are getting a lot of inquiries and a lot of case studies where people have been using Python successfully along with IDEA. Because anybody who's got knowledge of Python, that's a great advantage to use with IDEA. It's working very well, especially in the financial sector. Because where we have got tons and tons of data,
Exactly.
So it's been very useful because then you can really play with data really well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Padma, over to you. You were saying something. There's one more question. Okay.
I think ACL is compatible with R.
It's not compatible with Python.
It's not compatible because both are built in a different platform. That is why it is so. But R is equally capable of more of statistical tools. And it can also handle big data. So,
yes.
R and Python has its own pros and cons, but Python is used much more than R. R has limited capabilities and more used for statistical purposes.
Absolutely. R started off first, but I think Python is used more now.
It's taken over. Yeah.
It's taken over. So I think, anyway, so I think that's, can we have training sessions on use of Python with IDEA? Of course, Rajesh, we can always do that. We can share case studies. Maybe we can invite Padma to do some case studies for us. And plus we can also, lean on our friends from around the world and, build a case study on IDEA with Python. That's the next discussion that we're having with our principals in Canada, because I think if we can get a lot of case studies on IDEA with Python, that will really help a lot of users across the world. So we are just like we have this program on, combating fraud, where it was developed in the UK and they then gave it to all the distributors around the world to run it, for training for IDEA users. Similarly, we're talking about, talking to our principals, how we can develop the expertise on, having training programs built around IDEA and Python.
Exactly. And if I'm right, there are good amount of using YouTube's or videos are also available in this regard. I've seen couple of Python with IDEA.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I think
any other
if
questions?
there are no other questions,
what is the level of organization that look for such services? I think we have answered that. We have answered it. Okay.
Yeah, we have answered. So okay, thanks. So I think these are the questions. And if you have the email IDs for Narasimhanji and Padma, so if any of you have any questions, you can send it to them. If you send it to us, we'll forward it to them. So we'll be very happy to work with anybody to answer their queries.
Yeah. And we both are also active in just LinkedIn. So you can also connect through LinkedIn, social media. So LinkedIn is very professional.
Yes, LinkedIn is a very professional medium and both of them are active. So with this, we draw to a close today's session. And thank you very much. I want to thank Narasimhanji and Padma Tyagarajan for such a wonderful session, because really useful, really practical, because Padma has been very practical, speaking out pros and cons, giving insights on what will help a firm to get more clients, because it's a big ocean out there. There's so much of an opportunity. As a professional myself, I know that there's so much of an opportunity. It's only going in the right direction with the right mindset, right training, right competence, right tools. So I think people can achieve a lot and grow their firms through a consulting approach. Thank you very much, Narasimhanji and Padma. And the next week, we will have one more webinar directly live from Canada. That will be Brian Element, who will come on live and he's going to speak on the Idea Lab. The scripts which have been built in Idea Labs, pre-built innovative scripts, how it can be used and how it can be leveraged in Idea. So next week, looking forward to all of you to join in, log in next week and listen to Brian Element live on Idea Lab, pre-built innovative audit apps. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you all.
opportunity.
Thank you so much. Good day, all of you.
Thank you. Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Good night to all. Good night.